Hello. Today I would like to talk about a concept that I've been thinking for a long time, and a concept that has been on my heart, and I've been building it because I have come to realize that perspective is everything. So we have seen memes of a particular number, let's say 9, being sprawled between two people, and then one is at the top, the other is at the bottom. The other sees a 9 and the other sees a 6. The other sees a higher number, the other person sees a lower number. So you can have the same perspective, you can have the same material, the same digit, the same whatever, but you see it from a different perspective, and you value it also from differently as well. So perspective is very important. So this is why I have been holding this concept in my mind. And so this concept I have called it, and I've been calling it for a long time, what I call Ultra-Africanism. Ultra-Africanism. ULTRA. Africanism, that's a very simple word to spell. So this concept simply dictates that, contrary to Pan-Africanism, that Africans must come together and create a particular force or create particular economic initiatives as well as political initiatives that come together to unite a whole singular race. Contrary to that, it doesn't talk about just uniting one race. It talks about uniting all races, but with one caveat. The caveat is that people that have had the worst experience of humanity should come together. Not come together per se, but should focus and contribute even more to the whole of the human experience, as well as lead it in different spheres, because they have the best experience in terms of empathy and in terms of understanding how certain aspects of our social minimalism or our social shortfalls can affect and can dehumanize the individual. Not only the individual, but even the groups. So these are the people that have the full experience of the full spectrum of humanity. And by the order of, by some stroke of luck or some stroke of fate or destiny, whatever you call it, they've had the worst of it. They've had the greatest trials. This race is not, it is not supposed to use the same tactics, the same methods that were used by other races or other individuals or other whatever you call it, to dehumanize or to make a particular people, a particular tribe or ethnic group to feel as though they were not human enough or they were inferior. Instead, it must use this experience to enlighten spiritually, morally, scientifically, technologically, for the good of all mankind. So someone who has had the worst experience has a third person perspective of how it feels to be in that disadvantaged point, that disadvantaged scenario, that disadvantaged place and arena, that makes someone to feel so inadequate, as though they do not even need to exist at all, you know. It's part of human nature to have conflict and to to divide each other based on caste, ideologies, sometimes even dressings, and various other weird things. Human beings are at their core tribal, so much so that even within a small group, small tribes begin to emerge, and you begin to see the differences in the people and how they treat each other. But that should not make us forget that human beings are made of two aspects in their morals. That is, the morality that leans towards greed and evil, and the morality that leads towards generosity and good and righteousness. So it is human nature to be both yin, yang, or whatever concept that you can come that talks about our dualism. These all are concepts that try to define the inner struggles within our hearts, within our minds, and within our everyday experiences. So it is not surprising that human beings have divided themselves along the races, no matter how ambiguous they might be or how trivial, in fact, they might be. But some people cling to them so much that they would rather cause hatred and violence and wars and scourges and all things of weird consequences, sometimes death, even blood spewed because of these weird concepts. It is not surprising at all. It is not surprising that people are racially divided. Even among a race, people are divided according to wealth, divided according to weird things. Even among a religion, people are divided. Some people will feel more anointed, some are not, even though the God does not reveal themselves to say these are more anointed than the others, but they still feel as though these ones are more anointed than the others, which is weird, strange, really, seeing people divided among themselves. But it's not surprising at all, because it is inert and human to be like that. But now, let's talk about reality. One particular race, feeling all the brown and harshness of being just black. I mean, it's so weird, but probably it has some connotative sources. Who knows? Maybe there's an individual who created this, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's just implicit that when you're born, if you have a certain skin color or skin tone, you're thought to be having certain darker traits, as though your color were your character. But it's not like that at all. In fact, it's only found among human beings, which is weird. You see all the other species, different colorations, and yet they thrive to live together, and they do not judge themselves based on color. But the intellect of man has made us to see these nuanced differences and think of them as nuances for which to base our tribalism and ethnicities. And that is not a strange thing, maybe, because the intellect, by its own emergence, creates its own complexities, should we say. But now, what else should we do? Should we have a Pan-Africanism concept? It's a good one. And it is a defensive concept. As one of my senseis once taught me, when you are fighting in a war, and even in martial arts or one-to-one, hand-to-hand combat, you do two things and you do it both at once. You defend as you attack. So, they say, for some particular reason, a particular race has been attacked for being born a certain way. It is not a choice. They were born a certain way. Now, the but they're born this way. They create a defensive ideology, which is a result of an ideology that has attacked them, should we say? So it's an offensive ideology. So white supremacy came in and brought in an offensive concept. Now what do black people do? They create a defensive concept. Pan-Africanism. It is not against races, no, but it looks inward. It says, black people must unite. Let's come together as one and do our own thing, create our own banks, create our own markets, create our own this and that. Implicitly, it is an act of defense against an offense. Is it a bad thing? No, it's not. It's not bad to defend yourself. It must be done that every time someone is attacked, you must defend yourself. It's not completely natural. Why should you not defend yourself? If you don't defend yourself, you die. You cease to exist. So, since mankind is a creature of intellect, he also fights in the intellectual arena. Sometimes implicitly, sometimes explicitly. And this, I believe, would have been created even without the likes of the Nkrumahs, who seem to spearhead this concept. They were just tools of massive chiefs in the mindset of a particular individuals who share a common feature. Just one feature, not everything. In fact, to be honest, Africans are not only the most diverse group genetically, they're the most diverse group ideologically. We believe so differently that even to come together under one umbrella is a battle that cannot be won in a single day. So, here we are, divided, defensive. But wait a minute. There is one problem. You need to create an offensive concept. Like my sensei once told me, defend, offend. Don't just defend, offend. Now what do? We come up with a concept about our own Africanness and how we relate to the world. How do we relate to the world? We lead the world in a more empathetic way of dealing with each other. Not only from a racial perspective, even from a religious perspective. I, as an African, should not and cannot be here to try to attack another religion. Because I know how it feels. I know how it feels to be attacked because of a feature. Whether I chose that feature or I did not choose that feature, as long as that feature does not destroy me, or is not infringing on my rights in any way, I am at liberty to leave others to live the way they live and to work together with them for a more lucrative, a more luxurious human experience. So that's where our Ultra-Africanism comes in. That we should not look down upon ourselves, that we cannot lead. We can lead, and we should lead, and we must. Because what other alternative is there? Yeah, there are individuals with lighter hues that can lead very well, and that much is true. But that doesn't mean that we cannot follow them. We should, and we can. But in the happenstance that something weird happens, and we are left back to the repeating of the annals of history, we'll find ourselves requiring a leader. So, we must prepare ourselves to lead people, to be peaceful. So, if we go anywhere else where someone's features are different from us, we lead in the conceptualization that we are all equal. We do not leave others to make those statements on our behalf. We take the lead in making those egalitarian concepts, because we know if we do not speak them out, there's a chance that no one ever will. Because the morals and the direction of our history and society are not automatic. They require will, human will, and not only human will, corporate will. So there is a mistake that most people don't understand. They feel that their own will can make mountains move. No, they cannot. In fact, if you believe the sky was red and no one else did, you'd be called a lunatic. But if you spoke one day that the sky was red and everybody else believed it and said the sky was red, the sky would be red. That's what I call corporate power. So there are two concepts in terms of will. There is personal will, a will of the self, and then there is will of the corporate will. So you harness those two. So Ultra-Africanism as a concept means, as Africans, we must decide to lead people, all races, everywhere, to understand that the egalitarian principles are the only way forward, because if we did not take the egalitarian principles, our world will go back into dark times. We'll go back to the wars that never ended. Or at least if they ended, a lot of people's lives ended. So here we are, talking about something offensive, because to lead is to offend. To lead is to be at the forefront of a movement, of a belief, of an idea. Now, this idea is that Africans must not be afraid to lead, but must not lead in a way that is disadvantageous to others, because if they do, then they only repeat what happened in previous centuries when men were like dogs, when men were like beasts, killing each other, enslaving each other. I mean, so many evil things have happened in the world, and I do not think those things will end. No, they will never end. Because as human nature continues, there will be evils that will spark from the animalistic sources of our own being and will darken our path. In fact, there are many evil things that are coming ahead in the future. So much evil that if we even try to talk about it, only tears would come from our eyes. But that does not mean that there is no light within us. So we lead with the light in hope that even in the darkest hour, someone will shine their light, or at least will try. And now let me come to my other point, maybe not other, but a continuation of this Africanism exposé, if you can say, Ultra-Africanism exposé, that fear is not a concept that a human being that is wise even thinks about, because fear is something that destroys the soul, destroys the heart, destroys the vessel, and it makes the progress of man limp. Mankind cannot progress with fear. So we face death when we take the adventures into the ocean to seek for other lands and to travel among other beings and other races and other tribes. And we take that fear out. We take that fear out when we go to space where there's nothing but death. Because to fear is to limit the progress of mankind. If you fear even for a minute, your death will come quick, and not only will it come quick, it will come so quickly that you will not matter. You will not matter because you had fear. So that is where I think we also have issues as Africans. We fear too much. So we remove that fear, remove that idea that we cannot achieve. Achievement is taken as something that is applied to certain accolades or validation by others. That is a long way to look at it. You cannot only achieve by being validated by others. You achieve by validating yourself. You validate your being and your relevance to exist, which is that you exist for a purpose. Every single human being on earth exists for a purpose, whether for a second or two, but that is a purpose enough, because this universe has too many probabilities to bring about an accident. The many things that do not exist, they do not exist for a reason, because the universe did not will it. If the universe had willed it, they would exist, or at least would have had existed at some point. So if you exist right now, the universe literally willed it. So why should you fear? Why should you have hesitancy over doing something that must be done? And that is to imprint your will upon the world and to make it a better place. So Ultra-Africanism is not a concept to oppress others. It is a concept to bring others to the enlightenment, and not to limit that to people who look like you, as Pan-Africanism does. Because it is a good thing to unite, but to unite because you only have the same color is a very big problem in and of itself. It's rather we unite as a race of beings, all of us human beings, under one banner of enlightenment. Now that is what Africanism is. For every single African to strive to lead in their sphere of competence. If you are a footballer, you lead in that particular sphere, and you do not care about your color of your skin. It does not matter. If you are a doctor, you lead in that particular sphere and don't care about the skin color. Get over your skin color and help the whites, and help the Indians, and help the Chinese, help everyone, because you're all the same race. That's what Ultra-Africanism stands for, and that is what this concept will give birth to. People that have forgiven their past, that have forgotten their past, and are moving forward, letting go of all these blame games that I've played for too long. Who has not been enslaved? Who has not been put in shackles? Everyone has. It did not matter what skin color you had. You were enslaved at some point. You were colonized at some point. Now why should you stick to it as though it don't matter? As though you have no will of your own to make changes to your own choices, to your own lives, and not only your own lives, but the lives of others, no matter the color of their skin. So, Ultra-Africanism is when a black man leads a group of white people and makes sure that they succeed and live happy lives. That is what Ultra-Africanism is. Because it means you are understanding and accepting the path that you took, that the path was difficult, so that you can lead in difficult times. People who have not had a difficult time cannot lead in difficult times. Or maybe they might, but they will fail and will fear. But if they have no fear and are leading in the toughest times to the most egalitarian and peaceful and wealthiest times, it was there for a reason, so they might look at it and realize humanity can do better. The falling of one particular ethnic group does not mean that that ethnic group is useless. It means that ethnic group has to think twice about how they relate with others as well, and has to think twice about how they relate to others and even among themselves, and how they can help their fellow brothers in changing that weird conceptualization that does not even make sense. So here we are, an exposé of Ultra-Africanism, and I am open to debate. That's what I am. That's what I like. That's what I love. When I wake up in the morning, I love to debate. And when I sleep, I debate. When I am thinking, I debate among myself, rather. So that all the outer egos that I have should give out their own opinions and their own perspectives on the world. Anyway, have a nice day.